Oh, my impressions of the Bushcraft Show 2014 Derbyshire. I mean, my initial turning up was like 10:45, 20 to 10 at night, with a few minutes to go before he shut the gate, before Funky brought me pass out. So actually seeing what was there, it was getting dark. So arriving at that time, I'd missed the bottleneck because it wasn't supposed to open till 2. Well, if anybody's ever organised an event like this, people are trying to get there early to pitch the gaff, as it were. You know, they either got a Land Rover with a tarp on the side, they got a igloo tent, or they got a teepee, or they got a hammock set up. There's a lot to do, and everybody's itching to get on. They've already booked the day off, they booked the weekend off, and they're here to get the game on. Well, they weren't letting them in. At the end of the day, you know, next time you need to let the people in at 11 or something. You know, you can imagine most people would have left 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, between an hour and 2 hours. You can see, if you get there at 9, just hang on a couple of hours, and then you let them in and let it get on. And if you let them in early, you probably have a more gentler stream of people going in. As it was, people were queuing outside for ages. They were ended up in sort of an overfill area, and then when the gate opened, they didn't really have first dobs on pitches. It seems a bit of a straight new venue. Obviously they didn't really know how it was going to pan out. I got lucky because as I was directed down through this quagmire of a car park already, okay, this is 5 to 10 at night now, my car's already sliding, and he motioned me to go sort of near the end of the rank of cars as they were, but into the field, where I just literally saw the gate reflect in my headlights. And off I turned, and I'm like one space away from this gate, so I knew I had to let one car out, and I was getting out whatever. So I left the car there, and then carrying their stuff across. Well, by the time I was walking across wherever all the cars were, the campsite didn't feel too bad. And then the next day when I actually went out and looked about, they said, "Oh, you're not allowed your car out there." Well, people had trucks and Land Rovers and tarpaulins and awnings, and why wasn't I allowed my car there? Why wasn't everybody allowed their car? Drive in, park up, stay. That's it. You know, it's quite simple. If you take your car out, that's fine. If you're in a car park, you can dip and dap and go in and out of the pub. That's your own risk. But if you're going to pitch up, park and stay, I couldn't see what the problem was with allowing your car to where you're going. Because when you got out into the field, there was no mud, there was no worn tracks. It all seemed quite reasonable. And I just couldn't get my head around that one, especially as I had 5 blokes' journeys worth of stuff to take across. So the event organisers needed to consider that. You know, people asked me to bring this and bring that, and guitar and banjo, and that's just me. You know, I never had a huge tent. I didn't have a wood burning stove. I didn't have a Dutch oven. Did anybody know how heavy these things organise these events? So couldn't quite get my head around why you can't take your car to where you're going and stay. Because it wouldn't have been any easier or more difficult to come across the field than it would be having it by the car park. If they think, well, we'll leave it by the car park because it's easier to get out. No, it blooming wasn't. So anyway, by the time I got to the parachute of Camp Z, they had these like pickle jars on the ground, and I think it was Sparky Steve, you fill it with water, put a dash of bleach in so the water doesn't go all scummy and cloudy or whatever, and you put some zinc plated nuts, we'll come back to that in a minute, right, in there on aluminium foil. So the LED light they put on top of the lid when they've shut it all down goes down through, lights off the aluminium foil, diffracts off the nuts, and then turns it into more of a fluorescent tube. Then it would be a downward light that's awkward on the ice. Of course they were saying, yeah, he's just put nuts in it. And I'm there going, can't see any peanuts. Where's the peanuts? So nuts, washers, bolts, all that sort of thing were in these jars. But that was quite a crafty little move. The walking around the next day, one thing that I thought, hang on, very few easy to mount hammer points, tarp points. There wasn't many, even with a washing line or just a ridge line in order to put a tarpaulin over to dry out. It was very awkward to find anywhere. That, you know, when you find a camp, you're getting your eye in, and you're looking for these strategically positioned upright poles. There just didn't seem to be much going on. There was bits in front of them too short or too close or too far apart. It was a funny layout. And then they'd done a bit of clearing, and every now and again was this huge mangled random load of brushwood that they've cut down. Or if they cut it down a little bit more, they'd have made it into a lot smaller volume. I wouldn't have these huge areas that, do you know, right where I want to put me ridgeline on me hammock is right on top of all this crap, just brush. So the people they cleared it, but they didn't get their head around the fact that people need these points in order to set their camp up. And if there's 3 or 4 of you, you'd want one there, one there, one there, one there, central fire. You know, it was all random, so people were really dispersed trying to find their little spots. The other thing that was glaring in my brain was there was no chopping blocks. There was hardly any stumps that you could actually get a decent blast down with an axe or a chopper or a throw or a wedge or anything. So my system is based on a big ass blade and a solid stable mount. Like, but I had my knife and this piece of wood, boom, and all I was doing was knocking this disc, just the biggest thing I could find was about this big. I was just driving that into the ground. So, you know, that was a wake up call for me. Like, you know, God, imagine I got somewhere and it was really wet and there was no chopping blocks. My approach for processing hard wood for fire is based on a solid anvil, basically. Boom. There weren't really very many about. And then you actually sort of get on to doing the actual walking around the stalls and that. Quite why it was such a quagmire, you can't really work out. But there was no attempt to put anything down. Straw, hay, anything to maybe soak it up, anything to maybe tackle it or just make it a little easier to get around. And that's able-bodied. When you send someone to the disabled area, that would imply that the disabled area has increased or easier access to a path or toilets, amenities, the stand type. When my colleague got put one area, there was a toilet block close to. Then he proceeded to tow it away. And then when I consider where he was, the nearest standpipe was the other side of the field. Okay. There was people in invalid carriages, there was people on crutches, there was people in wheelchairs. If they had some form of plastic gridwork that would allow one loop round of the showground to the campsite, wheelchairs, invalid carriages and crutches would have an opportunity to get better access. Nothing like that at all. Now I know it's a field, but they could have literally rolled out 400 metres of this stuff, one loop round the circuit as it were, 300 metres to the campsite. That's improved access for disabled people. Didn't notice any sort of what's the word, appreciation for people who didn't have Bear Grylls type you know, I can climb a wall sort of idea. So what I seem to watch and see, and I've took in of everybody else's appraisals of the Bushcraft Show 2014 was lousy facilities compared with previous years. Well, of course, I couldn't really compare it, so I can't really comment on that. But the one thing they did say made it was people they met and people that were there, which goes back to something that Dusty Pilgrim 1 mentioned to me a few months ago, and that's, you know, are they going to have a stand, or are they going to have a focal point at some juncture, at some day, at some time, that all the YouTube people all get together so people can meet and greet? Well, I did message them, didn't get an answer. I was like, okay. So when most people's appraisal of the Bushcraft Show was wasn't that great, it was okay. Didn't really enjoy it, the show, but meeting and greeting the people was blooming excellent. Maybe they could consider the fact that people on YouTube, people on Facebook, people on, you know, social media, they actually got a bit of a draw. And the fact that all we're doing is communicating electronically to actually meet people in the flesh, actually meet them in real life, that could be a bit of a bonus for us, because we can actually catch up with everybody, and an opportunity for people who only sort of dabble in it and may not be do videos or may not do Facebook postings to actually meet the people you've been communicating with. That's just one point. The other thing was this: I could literally walk around and not catch everybody. You see what I mean? Saw roach occasionally. I swear I saw bushcraft too. Okay? And lone wolf and Doberman Nice and Sandy and the rest of it. But you literally could walk around and we could miss each other. Does that make sense, Mr. Organizer? Unless we got each other's phone numbers, and unless we'd already meet up and we're going to meet at a certain place at a certain time, we'll actually miss each other. So if there was a point where the YouTube meet and greet was at a certain time, 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Saturday, that meant anybody we could all get together and work out where our gaps were. And the other thing was, we'd be there, so that everybody else who would be interested in meeting the YouTube lot, the crew as it were, would have a point to actually meet us, instead of people trying to, oh, somebody turned up at the parachute, Scott, trying to meet you. I don't know where you were, but you know, I've had people asking for Charmin, I've had people asking for Badge, I've had people asking for, well, you could miss each other forever and a day. Okay, so that's basically it in a nutshell, in terms of, you know, the actual physical facilities and everything else to do with the Bushcraft Show. My personal experience is I had a hell of a time. Considering that 2.5 weeks beforehand I was possibly going to be able to make it for a day, do a day pass, for Zed to sort out the ticket for me, and a group shelter and all the food and camp bed and everything else. I mean, there's just no excuse. Wow, I'm going. Camp Z, as individuals, they actually seem to be more my character, which actually worked out quite well. I mean, at Camp Baza guys, they know how to throw a party, but you know, can I stay up 2 o'clock in the morning drinking? No, I can't. I can't keep up with that pace. So, you know, there's a Camp Baza group. It seemed to be like Mr. Scooty 1968 and a bearded clown, Mike Smith. They seemed to sort of collect, and we all ended up with people very similar to our own characters, and that really worked as well. So meeting up, I suppose the next thing could be Wilderness Gathering and the Blade Show. Really looking forward to if Funky and Roach manage to do another Preppers Meet, but don't call it Preppers Meet, too many MI6 people there. And thanks for watching, and that's just my views on the bushcraft show this year. I think the upshot of it is try a bit harder next time bushcraft show organised people. The car park guys seem to be pretty good, but it's better organisation, and we want a internet tent at some point, someday, sometime, for everybody to congregate together and just be able to meet up, and we could just pass on your where are we at this time, and it's a focal point for us all to get together, because even we could miss each other. So it's got from Wessex Blade sign off, and I'll do a bit of my gear. Good points, bad points on the next vid. All the best. Scott from Wessex Blades. Blades that make you go grrr.